Jason McCartney.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Osborne. Honour to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd like to congratulate my honourable friend for Worcester for securing this very timely debate. And this is a fantastic attendance here today. I shall be talking about football in a moment, and not least because of Huddersfield Town's thrilling 2-2 draw at Scunthorpe United last night, that takes Huddersfield's unbeaten league run to 40 matches. Coverage, of course, on BBC Radio Leeds. More of that in a moment. Firstly, though, I'd just like to clearly state that I accept and support the BBC licence fee should be frozen. It's right that during these tough economic times that the fee doesn't go up. My comments are going to be about how the BBC chooses to spend what money it has, not to campaign for an increase in its budget. It's all about choices for the BBC top brass. It's all about protecting the front line, and there's nothing more front line than BBC local radio. Of course.
Giving away on that specific point about choices in savings. We could look at savings on middle management across the BBC. Currently on their own careers website, they're listing asset acquisitions coordinator, a database architect and a thematic advisor. And I have no doubt the people of Swindon would prioritise our shoestring award-winning breakfast show over those examples.
Oh, well said.
Gosh, what fine examples. I'd like to congratulate my honourable friend for that. I should have written those into my speech. Now, I've spoken before in a Westminster Hall debate about the value and vital community role of speech-based BBC local radio, a much listened to frontline service not provided by any other broadcaster. Now, I have a particular love of BBC local radio, not just as a listener and also as a contributor as a Member of Parliament, but also as a former BBC local radio employee, and I used to report for BBC Radio Tees, or BBC Radio Cleveland, as it was then, when Juninho and Emerson and Ravanelli were playing for the Borough. Very exciting times. Yes.
Extremely good point, and BBC Radio Cornwall is going to lose 36% of its local output, and this means that we're going to have cuts in our language broadcasting. You said the spoken word is so important. This is the only opportunity for Cornish speakers to actually have news and content given to them, and that will be cut if these cuts go ahead.
No, absolutely. These speech-based services are services not being offered by commercial radio, and it comes at a time when commercial radio stations that did have news and speech-based are cutting back on those and concentrating on more music output, so an excellent point. I, though, want to concentrate... Very quickly, yes.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way, and I think he's making a very important point about speech-based radio, but also just looking at music radio. Commercial radio tends to focus on chart hits, and radio stations like BBC Radio Nottingham also provide an opportunity for local musicians and artists to get heard, who wouldn't ever get the opportunity to be heard on commercial radio. And does he agree with me that local radio also acts as a champion for local artists and for popular culture?
No, that's a superb point. BBC Radio Leeds has a session, I think, on a Thursday evening for unsigned bands, and there's Yorkshire Brass on a Sunday afternoon. So a variety of different type of musical choices is a really good point to make as well. Thank you for that. I want to concentrate on local sports coverage quickly. Coverage of local rugby league at BBC Radio Leeds is set to be cut back. Where will rugby league fans be able to keep up to date with the likes of the Dewsbury Rams, Hunslet Hawks and Halifax Rugby League? Yes, there'll be the odd score flash about the Bradford Bulls and Huddersfield Giants on Radio 5 Live because they're Super League games, but there's very rarely full match coverage of a Super League game on 5 Live, which is very football focused. I'll give way to my honourable friend, who I know is a big advocate for rugby league.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. And he and other members of the All-Party Parliamentary Rugby League group last night heard about the amazing community work being done by Rugby League. But we know that the cuts to many of the stations mentioned today will do real damage, not just to the coverage of the sport, but actually to that ability to assist in the community. Does he agree with me that there should be a full impact assessment of the impact on Rugby League before any of these decisions actually go ahead?
No, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and I know that's something that we're going to take forward with the all-party group for Rugby League. Very important as well. I'll give way to the honourable member next to me.
Yeah, can I thank the honourable member and thank him on Tracy's speech, because he's making a really important point about sport. I was brought up in a family that listened to Radio Merseyside all the time. It's an excellent radio station which has not just local but regional coverage. And one of the reasons we listened to it was because of the sports coverage. And rugby league, as he knows, in my area is a very important sport. And it's not just an issue about whether they deal with community views and getting across the messages. It's actually making sure the coverage remains at the same level. And the worry is that it will go to other sports and rugby league will be left behind. So does the honourable gentleman agree that we must ensure that we talk to the BBC and make the strong points that rugby league must retain the same focus in future?
No, absolutely, particularly as we head towards the Olympics, and there's going to be lots of coverage of other Olympic sports. We mustn't forget the sort of heritage sports as well, and particularly coming from Huddersfield, the birthplace of rugby league. That's something we'll be working up very hard with the all-party group for rugby league. I just want to make the next paragraph, and then I'll take a couple more interventions and then sit down. Talking of football, Radio Leeds provides super coverage of Leeds United, Bradford City and my team, Huddersfield Town. I was among 16,000 fans that saw Town beat Preston 3-1 at home on Saturday. This weekend, Town, though, are going to be away down at Yeovil, and most of those fans, including me, will be tuning in to BBC Radio Leeds' top team of Paul Oggy Ogden and former Town midfielder Kieran O'Regan for their biased, passionate and knowledgeable match coverage. Their superb commentary includes the use of tweets, Facebook and lots of fans' interaction. But BBC Radio Leeds now say that they're going to ditch that coverage of away matches. So instead of Oggy and Kieran, the home side's local radio team will provide the commentary. It just won't be the same. Gone will be the passion and the in-depth knowledge which are synonymous with footy fans. I'll give way.
Lancashire are really concerned that outside broadcasts as a whole will be affected, and that is something that we really need to put pressure on the BBC to sort.
Yeah, the honourable friend makes a good point. Outside broadcast, very important. We've already heard about times of emergency, floods, maybe major job losses in my part of Yorkshire as well with the heavy snow. The reading out of the school lists that were closed in the morning was something that was very valuable and useful to parents on BBC Radio Leeds. A good way to my honourable friend.
Very grateful to my honourable friend, and he makes a passionate case for the continuance of rugby league on Radio Leeds, but I'm sure he would agree that actually in my part of the world, in Gloucester, it's very important to have a continuation of the coverage of rugby union, especially so that the roar from the shed when we score tries against my honourable friend from Worcester Warriors can be heard across the county.
Yes, I'd like to thank my honourable friend for that point, and I hope they haven't been out night clubbing the night before they play on the pitch. Finally, in terms of coverage of local sport, whether it's football, rugby league, basketball, whatever it is, the BBC really must revisit this decision, think again about priorities. Instead of the big exec salaries, hundreds at Glastonbury, and copycat programming, which is produced by other broadcasters, focus on local output and focus on local sport. Thank you.